Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Quacks podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Dozer. And if you're new to the show, the mission here is kind of to expose the tricks and the gimmicks that are ever so frequent in the marketing industry, while also highlighting some great experienced marketers that do it the right way. So this time I'm excited to welcome our guest, Nick Berry. Now, Nick Berry is the president of the Marketing Secrets Club, and he's also an expert in all things digital marketing and funnel optimization. Nick, thank you so much for joining the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So let's dive in. Talk about your experience in marketing and kind of what you do now with the Marketing Secrets Club.
So, uh, um, honestly, my start in marketing came about 6 years ago. Most of my career has been around sales, outside sales.
Which is a very good skill to have, though, in marketing in general.
Absolutely. How I've always approached marketing is how can I make sales easier? Because I've been on the other side of having a lack of marketing support I've had great marketing support in the past, but about 6 years ago, I was working at a company. I was hired to be the sales coordinator, where my job was to keep the salespeople's calendars full. The first thing I did in the company was build a bunch of automations because I was looking through our CRM and I was like, they're not following up with anybody. They're just taking the deals and then they're moving on. They just got this hunter approach to instead of this farming approach to sales. So I built a bunch of automations that did that post demo that followed up with people who we hadn't marked one. And one day the lead sales guy walked into my little area because we didn't have offices. Startup life. Walked over and said, "Hey, my calendar's full," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's the point."
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
It's just funny how many times like salespeople or just lead gen people don't follow up with leads. I'm sure you see that happen all the time.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the number one. That's my quack. That's my
People
quack.
that don't follow up.
Yes.
We'll dive into more about quacks here later in the show.
Yeah.
But let's dive into some trends for 2024. Where will you be focusing your time and efforts just as marketing just keeps evolving on the internet as we're just here now in 2024?
Honestly, I still think there's so much opportunity left in follow up and distribution. Most companies, I did a little experiment this summer when my wife and I bought our house. Is I reached out to 4 different local insurance companies. Only one responded. I filled out their form and I called all of them. Only one replied.
Wow, so they don't want your business,
Yeah,
huh?
obviously. I'm like, I'm buying a house. Like I am we've got 2 cars, we got 3 kids.
You're a good premium.
Yeah. And nothing. Crickets. And I know that's not a good scientific sample size, but it gives you enough information to go, if it's happening here, it's happening across the country. And I've been in this space. I've been in the insurance services space for 7 years. So I know the industry really, really well, and it's the number one thing. So I think in 2024, the companies who figure out automation better, the companies who spend some time creating content and distributing the content, I think there's still so much meat left on the bone with email. It's still the number. And I know that statistic is thrown out there, but it's still the number one driver of new business.
And it just blows my mind because I'm an affiliate marketer too, and email drives the majority of my revenue. But when you talk to the average person, that's been in the marketing world, it's just funny to me how email is never a priority. It's about paid ads, it's about SEO, it's about top of funnel, but yet email just always seems to be forgotten about, in my opinion.
Especially like if you've gotten a lead, if you've gotten a prospect, why wouldn't you follow up with them? They came to you.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I want to dive into AI, Nick, a little bit. I know you mentioned a lot about automation, and I don't know if you remember this, but I think this was the first time we met. We were talking about Jasper, and this was when Jasper first came out, and you mentioned Jasper. We were at Gravitate, the co-working spot, and I'm like, Jasper, I just started learning that like a couple weeks ago because it was new to the scene at the time.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, I'm using boss mode, like I'm all in Jasper.
Yep.
So that was my first interaction with you, if you didn't remember
I
that.
do.
But talk about how you're leveraging AI now in your day-to-day operations. Are there any certain tools you're using? I just kind of explain your process with AI.
I pretty much scale back all of the external tools once I realized what they were working with. So when ChatGPT came out, I was looking at my $180 a month Jasper account, and I'm like, I already know the prompts. Like, it's here. And I've already like I had been messing around with their boss mode, which was basically their first. They were first to market with that chat interface.
For
I'm like,
sure.
I already been learning these prompts, and then I had built myself this massive prompt library.
You're ahead of the game.
And it's kind of my job. My one of my roles was marketing technologist, so my job was to, that's what my job was to stay ahead and be in front of stuff. So I've switched all of my content generative AI to ChatGPT using ChatGPT 4. I've actually got to a point because it's so busy. I have 2 accounts.
Wow,
So
you have 2 ChatGPT Plus accounts that you're
yeah,
referring to? Okay.
yeah. Just so when I run out of ChatGPT usage, I can go switch over to that.
That's a lot of usage.
It is. Well, a lot of it's also I spend a lot of time experimenting too. But I see, and this is exactly how I use ChatGPT. I will take the content that I've written in the past, give it to ChatGPT, and be like, "Hey, this is the content I've written in the past. What are some other ideas?" And I'll feed it the ICP I wrote, the ideal client profile that I wrote for my business, and be like, "Hey, what are 10 other ideas I can write about?" And then my approach to writing has always been, I don't do a ton of keyword research. Like I've always felt that if you write well, the keyword research just kind of happens natively.
For
I
sure.
do a little bit, but I don't go overboard. Maybe 10 minutes on an article. So I'll use those. I'll ask it to come up with some questions a beginner would ask an expert, and that's my format. And then I fill in and then I write in the rest. And then sometimes if it's real high level, I'll feed it back in and be like, "Hey, did this make sense?
For sure.
Am I
No,
completing all my thoughts in this
Yeah.
article?"
No, yeah, I get that for sure. And that's one of the biggest benefits that I've found with ChatGPT and specifically is just rephrasing content, re-summarizing content. If you go ask ChatGPT, whether it's the GPT-4, GPT 3.5 models, creating new content sucks in my opinion. I don't know, that's just what I've seen just from a content writing perspective.
Yeah.
So have you dabbled in like Claude or Google Gemini, or like have you dabbled in, Bing Copilot, which is running the GPT-4 language model? Have you dabbled in some of those tools as well?
I have gone and looked at Claude. Wasn't super impressed. I couldn't get the results of what I was getting with ChatGPT. The Google, like, I haven't been to in Gemini, but I did like in what was it, Bard?
So how it works is Bard is the language model, and they
Okay.
were running what was called Palm 2, which was the previous technology, and then Gemini is that advanced version of Palm
Yeah.
2. So Google Bard's the interface, and
Okay.
Gemini is the language
Yeah.
model.
I was on it a couple weeks ago, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, this is kind of like the original GPT. Cool." And went back to my ChatGPT accounts.
No, and I'm glad you said that too, because the GPT-4 language model gets a lot of slack, in my opinion, or a lot of criticism, but it's still by far the most advanced model. I don't care what anyone says. I've dabbled in all sorts of models. GPT-4 still excels.
What I really like about GPT is the custom GPTs.
I was going to ask you about that next.
I built. I went in and I fed it. I exported all of my article content that I've written over the last year. Like this week's a year of writing an article every week. So I fed it all of my content, and now I have a GPT that responds like me. If so, I can send it to somebody if they have a marketing question. I'm like, "Hey, do you have GPT-4? Do you have a GPT Plus account? Cool. If you have marketing questions, go ask this guy." And it answers the same way I would on everything. It's crazy. Other one is like I've got one. I came up with a mid-journey prompt generator mid last year, and I ended up taking that and feeding it into a custom GPT. So now, because Dolly was not good, the
No,
initial
Dolly 2
was
is
scary.
terrible.
Yeah, Dolly was scary. It was creepy, but they've just like everything else, they've greatly improved on it. So what I was doing because I hate stock photos, and I really hate just scrolling through and finding stock photos. So
I do too.
I made this mid-journey prompt generator to generate prompts to create stock photos for my articles and for my clients' articles. And I was like, wait, if I just make this GPT, I just have this, and it does. It's as good as mid-journey, and I skipped like 3 steps.
Yeah, I love Dolly 3. I don't know if you've dabbled in like Adobe Firefly at all, or if you use
Right?
Midjourney for all your image generation. But Midjourney and Dolly 3 are very good. They've come a long way.
Yeah, Midjourney, and sometimes GBT will just get stuck on something. I'll be like, I'll just go back over to Midjourney
For
for
me, it's
this.
the text and the images. I generate a lot of thumbnails for
Mm-hmm.
YouTube with just like 3 to 4, words in the text because that helps for thumbnail optimization. And so they'll screw up a lot of the words inside my thumbnails, as I found the biggest flaw so far.
Yep.
But if you come back and like, hey, fix the text inside the image, take it 2 or 3 times, but it fixes it every
Yep.
once in a while. So yeah, AI, there's so much going on with AI, man. It changes every day, as you know, and I'm trying to stay on top of it as best as I can without chasing shiny objects, as they say.
I built a GPT to analyze my lead generation. Basically, I went in and went through the prompt, said, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to analyze my leads. These are what my good leads look like, and these are what my bad leads look like. I'm going to feed you a spreadsheet of these anonymized. I take everybody's and this is anybody who's using AI. If you're feeding AI, any AI tool, any data, anonymize it. Take the PII out of anything you're giving to AI. They can read it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a
That's a very good
database.
point.
It's a
That's a
database.
that's a very good point. Is you don't want to give the AI models any hint of bias. You want the most, subjective or objective answer as possible, whatever
Yep.
you're trying to go after.
So I'll remove all the PII. I'll have my database unique identifier, so I could go do a VLOOKUP match later, and then feed it my lead lists and be like, hey, do these companies look like the other companies? And it's it's way better than my old lead scoring because I used to have to manually lead score leads. So I can put in 1,000 people with the data that I need and find out which companies probably match my ICP.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's transition here, Nick, and get into my favorite segment of the show where we talk about quacks. Define a marketing quack in your industry. I mean, what are some tricks and gimmicks that you see people do all the time to get results?
So mostly it's around lead generation. Anybody can generate leads. Anybody can literally generate leads. It does not take any special skills. The trick quality, yeah. It's the big thing is following up and building follow up based on that lead generation. If you are getting first party, so the leads are coming into your systems and you've done all your due diligence and you're following the rules and laws the FCC has set forward, you have so much opportunity to generate more revenue just by following basic follow up. And this is something I tell everybody, and a lot of marketers get upset with me. The things you send people are almost irrelevant. Not 100%. It's about being in their inbox and in their social media feed when they're ready to buy. And that's all marketing is. That's all marketing is, just being present and being ready when they're ready to buy. Because you can't make somebody buy something.
No.
I spent 20 years in sales. I tried the hard close for like 2 years, and all it did was make me miserable. And I didn't make any more. I made less money. So I figured out if I was just present and I was persistent, I made more money.
Yeah, I saw actually a podcast clip of you recently where you talked about the lurkers. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about,
Yep.
but I agree with you 100% where you have those lurkers that see you everywhere on social media. They see your emails, they interact, but they don't close. So explain like the lurkers that you just kind of highlighted here earlier about why those people are so important.
So when somebody comes into your business's ecosystem, only about 5% are in a buying decision mode. They're ready to buy right now. They've done their due diligence, they've done their research, they've talked to other people, they've done all of the psychological things they need to be able to ready to buy.
Or bottom of funnel is the best way to
Bottom
explain
of
that.
funnel. Yep. That's 95% of you. That leaves 95% of the people who are interacting with your business are not ready to buy right now. They are consuming your content. They are getting your social media. And even though everybody says organic reach is trash, it is, but it isn't. Most reach is is measured by engagement. Liking, commenting, sharing, clicking on links, stuff like that. That's how reach is typically measured, because we can't tell, as you know, the back end of marketers, we can't tell how many, but so that's how most people are measuring reach. Everybody else, if say you have a 5% engagement score, 5% of people of 100 people, that means 5 people are engaging with your content. That leaves 95 people who probably saw your content, who probably saw the email. They may not have opened it. Maybe they're on an iOS phone and they're using Mail, and like you can't see that the email is open. Whatever. All those people are consuming in your content, and if it's high, if it's meeting all the thresholds of being high quality, entertaining, or valuable, and entertaining is valuable. Everybody out there, being funny is more valuable than being smart.
For sure.
If you're meeting all those things, people will eventually buy from you if you're there when they're ready to buy. That's what the lurkers are. Those are the people that are they're just consuming. That's what we are. We're consumers. They're just waiting until the trigger in their head goes, oh, I need to go call Ryan. I need to call Nick. I have a fractional CMO service that I offer to people. I literally have been talking about it for months. I posted wasn't even talking about fractional CMO services on TikTok. One of my friends who's in the industry that I serve was like, hey, Nick, I need you to call me next week, as I comment on a TikTok not even relevant to marketing. I'm like, okay, I'll call you next week.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's a lurker.
Yeah, so as long in my perspective, as long as you're consistent and the content that you're posting about is relevant to whatever you're selling and somewhat valuable, doesn't have to solve everyone's problems, but it provides some value where someone can get that quick dopamine hit and like, oh yeah, I agree with that, and they like it. You still provided some value and they remembered who you are. So as long as you're providing that consistent content that's somewhat valuable, you're going to beat most people just by being consistent.
Oh, absolutely. And we talked about at the beginning when I all those 4 agencies I went and tried to get a quote for them. If one of them had followed up with me and they were competitive with my insurance agent, I might have got a shot.
Right. It blows my mind. Yeah. So let's kind of knock this off here. What are some of your biggest wins, or what do you think the biggest win is in your marketing career so far, Nick?
Honestly, companies approaching me and asking me to come work for them. When I started off in marketing, it was, the company I was with was like, hey, we like your automation style. You're improving your writing. Your emails are really good. And then companies started approaching me and be like, hey, I saw what you did with them. I want you to come work for me. And those are just ego strokes. That's
for
good.
Sure.
It's like,
I was gonna say it. Yeah.
Oh wait, I actually know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I love when people reach out to me out of the blue and they're like, hey man, I've been following your content for so long and it's so valuable. I've been meaning to reach out. Like that strokes my ego 100%, but I love reading comments like that when people message me.
Yeah. And just like getting in and building systems for companies and going, hey, this is, and changing the trajectory of the business. That's just, for me, that's kind of the goal.
Yeah, breaking that old mindset of how we used to do lead generation, and you come in with all your AI and automation systems and blow people away.
Yep. Well, and it's like I went round and round with a salesperson for a while because I am aggressive. Like once you come into my ecosystem, I'm aggressive because we're selling to salespeople in the software industry. You
it's can cutthroat.
Yeah. You can and you can be a little more aggressive with other salespeople. And I'm like, listen, we sell marketing automation. If they don't like getting marketing automation, they're not going to send marketing automation. They're not going to be a good customer. So it's okay if we weed them out early.
Yeah, for sure. So on a final note, Nick, again, appreciate you hopping on the show here. What would be your final notes on any marketing advice or AI automation advice, lead gen advice, whatever it is that you have a lot of experience doing? What would be a kind of final note for anyone listening?
Honestly, experiment, try new things, and just be persistent. When I started off doing email marketing, I go back and because I have the original documents, and I'm like, oh, those were bad. Doesn't matter. They still provided results because we were doing something. So just being the biggest thing, just being persistent. Everybody gets business ADHD. Kind of just try something for 6 months. You have to have you either have to have a lot of data or spend a lot of time before you can say, oh, this doesn't work. This doesn't work for me.
I actually have a quote on my wall here. It says, doing something is always better than doing nothing. And I think that can be applied to almost anything, business, personal, whatever.
Yep. Well, and I started the whole Marketing Secrets Club just kind of started because I wanted to share my knowledge and basically teach people the basics of marketing. So when a business owner's talking to a marketing agency, they go, "You're full of crap."
Yeah, I'll have to go check that out and kind of study your drip sequence and funnels and see what you're doing there.
Well, that one's more. It's a paid private. The Marketing Secrets Club is a paid private community where I just kind of expand on what my newsletter talks about. And that's the whole point of my newsletter. I started the newsletter last year only because I just wanted insurance agents, because that's the industry I serve. I wanted them to know more about marketing. While I don't think they, as business owners, they should probably be spending much time in marketing, you need to at least understand what all of it means so you can make good informed decisions. You have to be educated about it.
Yeah, you have to know enough to be dangerous. You can outsource to the right person.
Yep, and that's kind of the whole reason I started it.
Perfect. Well, we'll end on that note, Nick. Again, really appreciate you having you on. Where can people find you for more information on what you do?
nickberry.co is the best place because some LinkedIn engineer owns the .com.
Oh, damn. I love it. Thanks again, Nick, for having you on the show.
Yeah.
It's been a great conversation, and I look forward to chatting with you here in the near future.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, Ryan.